Live from Studio 3, this is Packaging Today with Evelio Mattos, Evelio, and Cory Connors. Hey, what's up, everybody? How's it going? It is Monday, December 11th, and we got a new face up on screen here with us.
I want to add it to that intro.
That's right. We got to put you in there. Good morning. So we got all right. So we got me, Evelio Mattos from Packaging Unboxd, idpdirect.com. You've got Cory Connors at Corrugated on the TikTok Sustainable Packaging Podcast. And,
good morning, everyone.
Who's our special guest today, Cory?
Mr. Matthew Wright, the CEO of SpecRite, one of our favorite companies. We talk about you often, and we're honored and thrilled to have you on, sir.
Excited to be here with both of you.
Awesome. And Adam's out today. He got back from Dubai from COP28, and sometimes that travel just kills you. So
yeah,
he's either that or skiing, right? One of those two.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe basketball. Yeah, I don't know.
Awesome. So as people start joining, do us a favor, just let us know where you're watching from, where you're listening to us from. If you're on YouTube, on LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever it is that you're hopping on, just go ahead and post in the comments where it is. And we'll get started. So Matthew, do you mind giving us just like a quick intro into who you are and what SpecRite does?
Yeah, no, thank you. Love being with you guys all the time when we have a chance to chat. So obviously my background is packaging. Primarily my whole career has been in fiber-based packaging from the beginning. And SpecRite was founded out of kind of just that world that I lived in and what I saw amongst all verticals. It didn't matter if you're in the automotive industry or in the food industry or the cosmetics industry, as diverse as those can be, all three of them and all, kind of five major verticals really suffer from the same problem. And it seems really rudimentary. I always don't know if it's a backhanded compliment or not, but everybody's like, well, why wasn't this figured out before, right? But I figured that what a lot of the problems with companies trying to get product to market, certainly the topic today being sustainable, certainly trying to be, better to the environment, less waste, all really became a data issue, or was a data issue. And it was the availability of correct, clear data of what something was made from and where it came from, where it's going to, and creating this language that everybody could agree upon. And I think we all know, and we've talked a lot about it, we come from this world where all that data is kind of bits and pieces everywhere, and really archaic methods, whether it's spreadsheets, PDF folders, old legacy systems. And so SpecRite was born out of that visibility of 25 years of seeing companies struggle, and really wanted everybody to get on the same page with the data that was required to do all these outcomes that we just talked about. So that's the foundation.
Wait. What are you talking about, Matt? Like every company can tell you exactly what their packaging specs are, right? Like they'll be able to tell you this is whatever board, whatever color. You can ask anybody in the company, and it's like all in one place, right? Isn't that
I followed that early on, and it's kind of dissipated now. Nobody argues with me, but early on, it's kind of fun. People say, no, I'd be in a meeting trying to explain this vision I had, and they didn't know we got it all in control. I said, well, throw it up on the screen. Let's look at it. And, well, can't really get to it. It's going to take me a little while. Well, then you don't have it, right? And so it's kind of fun today. It's a little bit less argumentative on this fact.
Cool. So you guys, so SpecRite manages all your spec data on packaging, and it's funny because like if you're on the design side, you create on screen, you might have a couple swatches here of materials, and you're like, yeah, this is exactly what the packaging is going to be made out of.
Right.
You hand it over to a brand, your client, and then now you've got a buyer who's, the creative team has approved the design. And now it's in the buyer's hands that have, procurement has to manage pricing and everything else. We got Stefano coming in from Milan, and Stefano's super familiar with this because he's like a print expert, Flexo print expert. So when a customer's like, all right, well, this can be printed 4-color for this cost, or we can run it Flexo for this cost. Now your buyer's making decisions. It may not be what the designer created. It may not be what the creative approved. And then as it kind of works its way down through all the different filters in the brand, things start to change. And then all that information is not captured in one place. Right. So if you're in packaging, the headache that it is to like try to figure out what your specs are. Or if you're quoting it with like 4 different vendors.
Mm-hmm.
Each one may have their own idea of how to quote it for you, right? So like you lose control of the specs. So SpecRite, you manage it and kind of pull it all together and make it accessible in one place.
Yeah. So if you think of a couple of things, absolutely. So I call it spec drift or whatever, but the spec as you hit send as a designer will never be the same, right? And so what I look for is really that single point of truth, and we could drill into this all day long, is that everybody collaborates in that same visibility of the spec. Obviously, everybody has different rights and provisioning abilities to that. But in essence, what you're just doing is what we see in technology everywhere else except for here, is you're getting everybody on the same page. And it's kind of in your social media. It's, we all know what that looks like. And so it's a very similar experience with technology for manufactured goods. And it's so critical as all these things we're going to talk about is kind of exploding and making it really hard to manage that. And then you talk about kind of the design phase of it. I really look at that's definitely one part of it. The history of that product changes over time. Maybe years that product stays in market, but it's a different product or evolves. And I want to keep that evolution clear and in front of everybody so that you can take action at any point, any time to do anything with it and feel comfortable with it.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And then the reason we thought it'd be great to have you on today is SpecRite's released The Value of a Sustainable Business Model, right? Unveiling consumer trends and expectations. And it's your consumer sustainability survey, which you can go online. You can go online to SpecRite.com. You can download the full thing. Actually, you can download a portion of it, and then you're going to release the full thing here in a couple of weeks. So can you give us a rundown as you're working through all the specs, as all the brands are submitting all their information? How are you getting these? How are you determining these consumer trends on sustainability?
Yeah, I think in kind of stepping back, just one step from a company process, a philosophical process, is we're a data company and we're not an opinion company. So we don't really come out with opinion papers on what a company should be doing, products they should be using or not using. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. Just from our company's position, we look at it as data. And what we're trying to do is understand what kind of data people want, what's driving decisions, what's driving behavior. And so obviously you go to the consumer, the end person making the decision. What I always love is that end person making the decision is not that far from us because we're all those people. We're all
right.
Talk about companies, but we're people, right? And we're making decisions even though we're running companies or doing things. And so let's just take a look at kind of the whole thought was, let's take a look from a consumer's perspective, but driving, there's a ton of these surveys out there, but I think driving towards packaging, sustainability, and really see something, we got pretty granular in some areas to try to get what the opinion of the consumers out there. And there's some interesting trends that we found through this process. And if I jumping into kind of, I think the most interesting one I pulled out of it is you have this, what I think we all kind of know is most people want to make sustainable decisions, right? Or make purchases based upon sustainability. And so you saw a very high level, 53% said that they would spend more on packaging that was deemed sustainable. The challenge is that the opposite side of that was there's a very low trust factor with companies. 80% said they don't trust them. So I think where the world's struggling is they're saying, well, people aren't paying more for sustainable products, but the problem is people aren't sure if it is, right? So it's this interesting converse relationship we're seeing out there from the survey.
Yeah. That's the crazy part. So I just spent a little time over in Finland at Aalto University, like I was mentioning before the call. And a big part of that, the conversation there on the sustainable materials that they're developing there was trust. And in Europe, there's a lot more trust around the materials because of the certifications that are in place versus here in the US where we really don't trust anybody for anything. We just don't. There's too much marketing, there's too much politics, you're just inundated with things that you don't trust. So when it comes to sustainability, it's just one more thing on the list of, it's BS. It's not getting recycled.
I think what Matthew said is,
however you look at it.
What Matthew said is really important. Consumers want to do the right thing, but they don't know what is the right thing always. There's a perception of what's sustainable. There's a perception of what's a positive decision, but they're not always sure. So oftentimes this will help add that value.
Yeah, and it says, since there's 80% of the consumers that trust companies when they're more transparent and they
Yeah.
share their sustainability data. So how can you ensure the accuracy and the verifiability of that data to the
You know,
consumer?
yeah, no, I love what you're saying, and I don't think it's fully figured out. I know we have a lot of discussions going on internally with different solution providers, and I really, you guys know this, I really look at the whole thing as kind of a community, right? We have Summit, we bring everybody together, and so I think through various technology partners we're talking with, we're going to find a way to give that visibility to the consumer. And again, because we're talking about a data issue, in my opinion, it's availing that data to the consumer, to the purchaser, to the people that are making these decisions that allow the comfortability. And you think of like our latest partner, Trustwell, has the Genesis, right? That's the ingredient labeling solution. And so today, I don't think too many of us challenge the label when we pick it up and we read how many calories are in there. You know, we're pretty comfortable. That's a pretty good range of that calorie count. And we make decisions kind of based upon that. My vision is we head in that direction, right? And whether we avail numerous different solutions that come together to create that, but we've got to give that consumer that really quick reflective opinion that's backed with facts and data to make them allowed to make these decisions they want to make, which is the positive. They want to make these good decisions. And I've always believed that people want to do the right thing when given the chance to do that. So that's how I envision the future looking.
You mentioned the Spec Summit. We should talk about that. That's a really big deal coming up soon. January 31st through February 2nd in Austin, Texas. Can you tell us about the event and what people can expect if they sign up?
Yeah, no, I would say definitely sign up quickly. We're doing the countdown daily. We've locked the audience this year for the first time to kind of account. And so it's really exciting. We've got some amazing speakers. We have CIOs from several major companies, a tremendous amount of sustainability expertise coming to the stage. My vision of Summit is not a SpecRite conference. It's a summit. I think we have less than 50% of the speakers are SpecRite employees. You know, by and large, the majority are external experts in the field. So you'll kick off on Wednesday, January 31st with what they call Chat with Matt. I don't love the title, but we'll go with it. So it's actually going to be on the topic of the balance between cost and sustainability, and kind of continue to drive into that dialogue. And then, you know, I think for those who've been with us at these summits, we have a lot of fun. We have some great live music both nights, and just a jam-packed. We run 20-minute sessions through Thursday, and so just a content-rich environment with streams that will jump off on Friday and kind of collaborate deeper into certain areas like sustainability and product development, et cetera. So you really come in. It's kind of like handling the volume coming at you, but it's a tremendous amount of content and rich, deep content. And we've been told it's probably the most content-rich program that people go to. And so we're excited to have it again. It's always in January, and for those that are in the north area, it's a nice warming trend, hopefully coming down to Austin, Texas. So.
Yeah. So all right. So SpecRite. If I'm a designer, how do I guess as a designer, if I'm in an agency, I'm not necessarily bringing on SpecRite, right? But if I'm a brand, that's where I'm really looking to SpecRite, to bring SpecRite in to manage my SKUs. If I'm a startup and I've got 3 products, probably not the right client, right? I'm probably not big enough. I don't have enough information out there and data that needs to be collected. But if I'm, a brand with 200, 2,000 SKUs, that's where things start getting crazy, right? Because you've got bottles, you've got plastics, you've got labels, you've got paper, you've got a variety of different things, all these different print processes produced with all these different manufacturers or contract partners. That's where things start getting crazy. So is that the target? Is that who the right client is?
Yeah, you look at our product count, and then our spec counts are separate. We're over 2.5 million products on SpecRite, right? So yeah, generally it's high volume and high complexity. That said, there are, and I wouldn't say it's a majority client, we have a fair amount of quick start companies or up and coming companies that want to do it right from day one. They may have 1 or 2 specs or 3 or 4, and then those quickly go to 20 products, right? Yeah. And so there is an appetite. I would say kind of what you said. little bit differently. The companies that have very low complexity, the same specs for 20 years, probably not going to be the first people to adopt a spec, right? But yeah, high consumer brands that have a lot of different specifications. Some customers have, 50, 100,000 different specs, some have 500. And then definitely, some of the newer fast start companies like to, again, do it right from the beginning. What I like, no matter what that is that the real key is the connection between the people touching the data or sharing the data. So to your point, you could have a brand. What a brand would do is avail you the rights to kind of put that spec into their system, right? And they can accept that. So they could say, hey, this designer A is going to provide these type of information to us, and it's going to be kind of sitting there waiting for them, and they'll accept that in. And then if they, to your earlier point, if they change that spec, say they do something different to it, they have the ability to alert you that that change has been happened. So if you're keeping, your own copy, and hopefully, you have a digital twin, you can have those twins identical, right? And so through technology, we're trying to get everybody to work together. So we have, several hundred customers. We can talk about kind of the makeup of that, but tens of, thousands of these connector points that are sharing data or using data off of that kind of core data structure. And that's what's going to allow us to kind of have this clarity where waste is being eliminated. You can read all the reports about it. We are getting better products to market faster because of that. It's a standard technology kind of methodology.
And today with AI, you can't have a conversation about anything without AI. Data is king at this point. So with all of this data that you're collecting, that the brands have pretty much under their control, which they didn't have in the past, are you incorporating any type of AI systems in here to be able to do something with that data?
Yeah, I mean, I can't go to a
Or
meeting
data.
without it coming up anywhere, right? So last week I was in New York, had a bunch of meetings from all sorts of different people, and it was definitely a topic, a theme of every meeting, right? And so, you said something that's really relevant, and that's the first step is data. You can't. Everybody gets enamored with AI, and you can't run AI against PDFs and spreadsheets in different spots, right? It just doesn't work. All the kind of fun AI stuff we're seeing out there has residual data it's been playing off of that's been, there for 10, 20 years. So to your point, as we build in this data set, and it's getting very big, as I mentioned before, and very dynamic, we're absolutely looking and starting to already play with several other AI startups around stuff that's really cool that can be done with that data. And obviously at the client's request or the client's buy-in, obviously it's their data, but there's going to be really fun stuff. How do you make smarter products faster? It's data. Like, how do you know what worked before, what works better now? You do that through data. And so as you're starting to envision or design, develop products, or you're starting to, change products, the idea is, and what we're seeing is it's going to start to help you do that. But again, you mentioned before, you got to get that data structure set up and standardized. You have to create data in a structure that technology understands. And so we have kind of these one-off people who develop these systems, but they're not really worth much because data can't travel through the data structure. That's important too.
So I'm picturing all right, so I'm spec, right? I'm not, but if I'm spec, right, I'm looking at all this information I've collected, and as a service to the customers, then, somebody's putting in, these boards, these prints, produced in this region, and there's another customer and a collection of customers that have similar specs, but are getting better pricing and better supplier information from this section. Like, will the system at some point be able to then help kind of manage that, because you've got all of this data available, and help recommend to clients? Say, you can adjust if you go from B flute to E flute on this particular material produced in this region, you're going to save X amount, and then provide that type of a service.
Yeah, so I'd say even today we have a baseline value around that. It's called IQ, which came out before AI, but IQ, and that's those type of things. Like, it's kind of what I'd say is industry standard recommendations that can be driven through data. That's not really reliant on the data teaching it, right? So AI is teaching the data. So that exists today. So you just nailed it. Like, one of in the fiber-based shipping box, going to B flute from C flute saves you shipping, volume, material, et cetera, et cetera. So there's definitely kind of those rhythms that we can run through that data structure today. Where we're going to, and hopefully not too far out, is if you even think about sustainability, and I keep pounding, it's a data problem. But then on top of that is, if we could mirror or relate these offerings that are coming out, that are really good in one part of the world, that are available in the same part of the world, and knows that it can displace certain types of product and create those marriages through technology quickly, I think you're going to get a jump start on some of these really cool products that really aren't getting anywhere because it doesn't know how to marry itself. It's looking at this global landscape with tens of millions of items, and it doesn't really know where to go, right? And now, to me, it's just linking up this data again, creating this marriage between data structures from something being created to something that can be used. So that's where I'm going from a sustainability standpoint. And then to your point, from the cost savings, also an impact, you have a globalization issue. Obviously we see that unfortunately all around the world. What's the impact? Where can it move to? How quickly can it move? What's the cost impact of that? That's all data, and we're playing with those rhythms right now. Some really fun stuff, actually.
Nice. And then I just see Mark Dicer's got a great question here. He wants to help promote your product to his clients. Is there a specific job title that you find yourself working with more than others?
Yeah, we love to make things complex, apparently, even though in our credo, it's like simplify the complex. It really kind of depends on companies. We talked about verticals before, right? So in cosmetics, CPG world, definitely a lot of pressure on getting products to market faster, right? So the new product development team's probably the first people kind of interested. Food and bev is under constant price pressure or supply challenges. So you might have procurement or packaging engineering, which seems to be departments structured in that regard. And heavy durable goods like automotive and things like that, it's really service parts. So we can break it down kind of by vertical, where the first point of entry is. But I would tell you, we expand very naturally, very quickly through those organizations. Once one department has that data and they see it and they're doing things with it, the next department goes, well, I could use that data too to do things better, smarter, pack products better. So, but at the end of the day, we started in packaging, we've gone to ingredients and machinery, but your VP of packaging procurement, depends on the company, is always going to have a high interest level. And your champions generally will always understand and get this problem and get the solution. And we have good business cases that help them sell it up, through the organization as they may have to, and help justify with ROI and cost structures. And so again, it depends kind of by vertical, but packaging, high level packaging person is probably a good starting point.
IT, yeah. I think that's one of the coolest parts about this is it's, like you said, it's everyone. It's throughout the organization, and it's not just packaging, it's ingredients. It's which machine does this run on? It's how did we pack this, for shipping for this stream. There's so much more here. SpecRite is so impressive. Well done.
Thank you. And real quick on that CIO, the technology groups probably were the latter to come to the table. But we, as I mentioned in the summit, we have a really dynamic, powerful CIO presentation. There's going to be 5 major company CIOs on the stage talking about this need for data management. And what really is kind of fun today is they're realizing that they may have their systems or ERP systems kind of ingrained, but all this extra data is kind of floating around, and that's not good. That's not secure. That doesn't give corporate governance great ability to sleep at night. So we're really starting to see this alignment of the technology groups going, no, this is not just kind of cool for the business. This is good for the companies too.
Yeah. And just switching around that ERP, are you, to Adam's question here, are you guys getting inundated with companies concerned about EPR laws?
Yeah, absolutely. And we can't, and you guys know this as well as I do, you can't go a day without. There was an interesting article published last night about how the U.S. government's talking to the U.S. corporations going, hey, you're going to have big challenges going to Europe right now. And what are we doing about it, right, as we look at our exports? And so it's obviously the top of the day. Next to maybe AI is right there. The next one is the EPR. And again, I think the challenge is for the educational stream is, we've looked at sustainability, EPR reporting, other things around that as an event. We got to do this thing. It's kind of like taking a test at school, right? We kind of, we won't go down that path, but really need help with the educational system. It's not about taking a test. It's about learning, right? And so same thing with EPR. We're trying to teach people that it's not an event, it's an ongoing thing. And that ongoing thing can be done through data. And we really believe in integrations. We have, I think not quite 100 yet, going all different directions, but there's great LCA tools or great tools of sharing that data back through your data set. And so we're trying to really convince the customer it's a data thing, it's an everyday thing, and it's just got to become a way of life so that you can answer. They're going to change. The requirements are changing constantly. We all know the US is having 50 different versions. Now they're trying to narrow those down. So it's going to change again. So even if you did it the one time, you're going to have to do it again. So it's really, I think, enabling technology and data and just changing your opinion of what it is. It's not a thing to get rid of or answer or, get done so you can move on. It is a thing. It is the way we're going to operate.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I would just say, if you want to learn more about SpecRite, you can go to specrite.com. You guys have a great podcast with Laura and the team. You can learn more there, or Spec Summit.
Yep.
So
yeah,
let's
specrite.com,
wrap it up.
everything.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up. People want to learn more about EPR. They want to learn more about sustainability. Specifications is not the first place that they think, but man, collecting all this data makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, it's the data is going to get you to scope 3. Everybody's freaked out about scope 3. Now that's all your vendor's data, right? It's not so easy anymore. So we got to enable technology and multiple technology streams to solve these problems today.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Thanks so much,
Well said.
Cory.
Always great to be with you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Appreciate you.
Live from Studio